Kentucky Derby. Kentucky Derby.
Now they move around the turn. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for free.
That's what it is in the center of the racetrack. Seattle Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem, he's pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, the French thing coming the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Lionheart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle Slow of 1976.
Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts. It's sure to be a fast and furious Friday. It's the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show presented by TwinSpires.com. Fast main track, a gorgeous morning here in Louisville, Kentucky. Temperature nearing 40 degrees. Let's take a look at the headlines with Kentucky Derby jockey Marcelino Pedroza aboard. Obazos worked a sharp half mile in 48 flat with a 6 furlong gallop out time in 1:12 3/5 Thursday morning under the Twin Spires. Churchill Downs mainstay Greg Foley will saddle a Kentucky Derby runner for the second consecutive year. At Santa Anita, the Bob Baffert trained Medina Spirit worked 6 furlongs in 1:12 1/5. The son of Protonico is slated to arrive at Churchill Downs early this afternoon. Last year, Baffert tied Ben Jones for the all-time Kentucky Derby record with 6 wins. Helium, Keep Me in Mind travel column at Avis Grace Breeze earlier this morning. Maybe a dozen other Derby and Oaks horses, including the Todd Pletcher trained foursome for the Derby and the filly Malathaat. They're likely to work on what is sure to be a fast-paced Friday morning here at Churchill Downs. Scott, you got your seatbelt fastened over there? It's going to be fast and furious. Did you hear the headlines?
Rumor has it, but a little bit warmer than the last couple of mornings. Great to be out here again, Joe. And like you said, very busy morning expected.
This is an exciting time for the work show because we get to see a lot of these horses work during that fast and furious time that begins at 7:30 Eastern. And we've got a fourth member of our team today for the first time on the work show. I'd like to introduce her, but first let's take a look at her credentials. And she has some really good ones, not only career-wise, but specifically in the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. Almost 1,900 career wins. Couple of victories in the Kentucky Oaks, 2012 with the long shot Believe You Can, and again in 2014 with Untappable, with whom she won the Breeders' Cup Distaff as well. She won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile in 2012. Raced 3 times in the Kentucky Derby. Best finish 2013. A 5th place performance with My Loot. It is my pleasure to introduce Rosie Napravnik, who is retired as a jockey but still very active in the racehorse aftercare arena. Rosie, some great memories for you in your career. I'm guessing that Untappable in the Oaks was one of the best ones.
Thanks, Joe. It's so great to be here. I was just thinking, I don't think I've been out for the Derby works since 2017 when I was breezing Girvan, so I'm so excited to be here. And obviously looking back at Untappable's win in the Kentucky Oaks was just, one of my greatest memories. She was such an incredible filly, coming in as a favorite and just absolutely dominating in the Kentucky Oaks in 2014. One of my career highlights and best memories here at Churchill Downs.
Now, Rosie, you're joining us here on the work show. You got a great view from the backstretch of the horses, obviously a monitor as well. What are you looking forward to adding to the show? I mean, it's an exciting time for all of these jockeys, trainers, and owners of these Oaks and Derby contenders.
Yeah, everybody's out here. Today's there's going to be a lot of works. Their final prep races, prep works for the Derby and the Oaks, and everyone's looking to see how the horses are training, who looks like they're really aggressive, who looks like they're training strong, who's relaxed, who's a little bit keyed up. So everyone's kind of looking to see how the horses are doing. The trainers, the jockeys, and all of us sort of analyzing to see what we think of them as well.
All right, thanks, Rosie. Looking very, very forward to your insight. And we add Rosie to the team. Brandon Staubel on the 4th floor. Brandon, we're throwing the kitchen sink at you today. At least we have Rosie to kind of sort of help you out a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm excited to have Rosie on the show, and excited for the help because we're going to have our head on a swivel up here. You mentioned all the workers, possible 16 in total for the day. Very excited for Rosie to join us. Particularly, I'm interested to get her opinions on the gallop outs because that's really where we see these horses. How much do they have left in the tank after their works? Are they breathing heavy? Are they getting what they need to get out of this? So great to have her on the backside. And, it's just one of those mornings where if you're a trainer or you work in the barn that it's a little bit easier to get up. That alarm clock, you don't hit that snooze button today because you've got 1 week till the Kentucky Derby, 6 days. 1 week for the Kentucky Oaks, 6 days to the. Anyways, the Oaks and Derby coming up soon, so they're excited to get out here and get these final preps out of the way.
1 week till the Kentucky Oaks, 8 days to the Derby. I know what it's like to get a little bit of a brain freeze, but Scott, if it were up to the Oaks and Derby trainers, they wish those respective races were tomorrow at this point.
No doubt about it, especially if your horses thrive. You kind of want to put them in bubble wrap so nothing goes wrong, but exciting times for barns that have horses for these races.
No changes in the Kentucky Derby top 20, which is a good thing. We want to keep all of these contenders around. Obviously, there's a handful of horses outside looking in as we look through the top 10 and now the second 10. Again, no changes. Steve Asmussen with 2, Mark Cassey with 2, Todd Pletcher with 4, Brad Cox with 3, and Scott, 4 horses on the outside looking in, as I mentioned.
Yeah, 4 horses. Hosier, first one to get in. King Fury, who was great in the Lexington. Keep Me in Mind, who won a race over this track last year, and Star in My Dreams for Dallas Stewart.
Obazos worked yesterday. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. First, let's take a look at his credentials. 2 for 5. Both of those wins, Scott, were in sprints. Third in the Louisiana Derby. He worked great yesterday. We'll take a look at it in just a moment, but he certainly is heading in the right direction heading into the first Saturday in May.
You said it. Appears to be thriving, coming in the biggest race of his career. Finished extremely well in the Twin Spires Louisiana Derby and put up a career best effort there. He will be pace dependent. He'll need to work out a trip, but I think if he does, he has a shot to hit the board at the very least.
Hold on, Marcelino Pedrosa. It's Obazos. There he is. And he's got about ready to break off from his work yesterday morning, which was clocked in 48 seconds flat. A really strong gallop out as well. And to take us through it, Brandon, then Rosie. Brandon?
Yeah, guys, Obazos here on the street, Marcelino Pedrosa up. And one thing about certain trainers here on the backside, they all have different philosophies. Greg Foley, when he's breezing a horse, they usually like to start out at a shorter pole. So if we're going a half mile, we're going to start at the 3/8 pole, teach the horses to work past the wire so they keep on running and then they gallop out strong. So this work starts at the 3/8 here, and you can see early on Obazos maybe just wanting to kind of cock his head and get a little bit of aggressive going into this work, but he does settle down just a little bit, and really it's just you can see right there kind of switch his head out just a little bit right at the quarter pole here coming up, and they're just trying to get him to relax, and Marcelino did a great job in here, and really they're just getting started here. A lot of this drill was done past the wire as we pick him up about the 8th pole, and Rosie picking this horse up at the finish line. Like we said, I think most of this work was done after the wire.
Yeah, you can tell the jockey really actually asked him at the wire to go out after the gallop out after the wire or finish the work. The one thing that concerns me with the horse is the cocking of the head a little bit. You can tell when the riders ask him to come back and come to the rail, he just cocks that head and is almost like a little bit of a wasted energy. He did the same thing in the Louisiana Derby when the jock was trying to take him to the rail coming out of the gate. So that's a little concerning with 20 horses going into the first turn. You just want to have good steering, good control. Having said that, this horse is not going to be forwardly placed, so that's probably, the better scenario for him. But the work was clearly a strong one. The gallop out was very strong. The horses had 6 weeks from the Louisiana Derby, and I think, he's a good, fresh horse training well.
Man, it's been getting a lot of camera time this week, and of course in the next week as well is trainer Greg Foley. What did he think of Obazos' work?
The work was actually a half from the 3/8 pole to the 7/8 pole. His times, I think the clockers had him 48, galloped out in a minute flat, which I wanted a good strong gallop out. I told him I wanted to gallop out a good strong 3/4, 7/8. I thought he worked tremendous. Did it easy in hand. He tapped him on the shoulder when he hit the wire. He really didn't start doing anything until he went through the wire there, and he came by. I watched it here on the backside, but he galloped out in front of me. I thought he looked great. Just babysit him between now and next Saturday. That was his last work for the day. He'll, just have some good gallops and stand him in the gate a little bit, school him in the paddock, stuff like that.
From Obazos, a likely long shot, to the likely Kentucky Derby favorites. Got essential quality, perfect 5 for 5, has already banked $2.2 million.
Hard to knock a horse that comes into the Derby 5 for 5, Joe. He has class, he has a nose for the wire, but what I like most about him is his versatility. He can be up to close to the pace, or he can come from way off it, like he did in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
He checks all the boxes. He was out for a gallop earlier this morning, Rosie, and like I mentioned, the likely favorite in the Kentucky Derby. What do you see from essential quality?
Yeah, this horse just is really straightforward to me. I love the way he gallops. He's in the bridle, but he's not pulling. Harmony between him and between the horse and the rider. Just coming out to do his job. He looks, he's moving really well. He's got kind of a swing in his stride. Ears pricked here coming down the lane, and just looks like he's out for his morning gallop and doing his job, and there's nothing to it. So he's obviously a very professional horse. Like you said in his races, he's versatile, and you gotta love a horse like that coming into the Derby.
Rosie, you said it best there, straightforward. I think that's a great way to describe this horse. Just does the job. Nothing super flashy, but just gets the job done. Interesting to note as well, we talk about the fine touches that trainers put on. This horse wears blinkers in the races, does not gallop in them. They did take him to the gate yesterday. We had some video there. He schooled in the gate with his blinkers on, but then as soon as the gallop started, they took him off. So just those fine touches that the trainers will put on. Some horses will gallop both in the morning and the afternoon in blinkers, but they found that this particular horse is best suited, maybe taking those off, getting him to relax in the morning, and then when he puts them on in the afternoon, he knows it's game time.
Brad Cox has won the Kentucky Oaks twice, but he's never even started a horse in the Derby until this year. He now has 3 potential starters, including essential quality, Caddo River, and this guy, capital M, capital A, capital N, Mandaloun, and man, did he look good earlier. We'll take a look at the gallop momentarily, Scott. Big win in the Risen Star with blinkers on, clunker in the Louisiana Derby. Which horse shows up next Saturday?
That's the big question, Joe. That career best thoroughbred figure and Brisnet speed rating he earned in the Risen Star with the blinkers for the first time. Then you mentioned throwing in the clunker in the Twin Spires Louisiana Derby, but he's had 6 weeks to regroup, and he looks phenomenal. He should get a great trip come next Saturday.
Rosie, if you like Mandaloun as a potential long shot, the visual on your screen right now is certainly not going to deter you.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I think if you could paint a picture for what you want your Derby horse to look like training into the Derby, it's Mandaloun this morning. He's a big horse. He has a huge stride. He's really into his gallop, but he's not pulling on the rider. He looks like one of the horses that if you were to take a hold of him, he might be really strong, but if you just let him set his own pace, he's really happy, maybe just a tick faster than some of the other horses gallop. But I just really love the way he looked this morning. He looks strong, he looks powerful, he looks fresh. I don't think anybody's looked better that I've seen.
Yeah, I would agree, Rosie. He looks great out here, and he's catching the eye of a lot of people. His work, the last week's work was very impressive. It galloped out strong. I would just say the only thing that I've seen from him that maybe I'd like to see as we get closer to the race is just to maybe not get too keyed up. That's my one concern. I know going into that first turn Louisiana Derby, he kind of started pulling a little bit like you alluded to. That's something you didn't want to see, and I would just like him to stay like this and not get any more over-energized than what he is right now.
No trainer has won more Kentucky Derbies besides Ben Jones than Bob Baffert, who won his 6th last year with Authentic. He's got Medina Spirit this year. He's also got Hosier on the also eligible list as number 21. Medina Spirit, a $1,000 original purchase, flipped for about $35,000 by Prontonico, who certainly is an under-the-radar stallion. And Scott won the Robert Lewis, and if nothing else, his horse is consistent.
He's consistent. He's faced some of the best colts in the country, and Life is Good, who unfortunately we won't see in the Derby, and Rock Your World, who will take a lot of support at the windows. We've learned in the past that fading Bob Baffert in the Derby is a dangerous move, Joe.
A little bit more than a week before the Kentucky Derby, Brandon, but in typical Bob Baffert style, goes 112-1 for 6 furlongs yesterday.
Yeah, not holding anything back, and looking at the thoroughgraph figures, which a lot of us will look at, kind of runs the same race every time. So if he comes here, he shows up, he's probably going to run his race. Whether or not that race is good enough to actually win the Kentucky Derby is still yet to be determined. But working here with Azul Coast, who is on the inside, last seen winning the El Camino Real Derby actually last year. So he's coming off of a layoff, getting ready for his campaign. But on the outside here is Medina Spirit, showing some speed early. The team is going to stay together. Eventually, Medina Spirit's going to pull away on the outside. 6 furlongs in 1:12, typical Bob Baffert fashion there. We're going to show some speed. And, Rosie, I'd like your opinion on the gallop out in here, because I watched this work yesterday, and I thought for a Bob Baffert gallop out, I wanted to see a little more. He was really asking him a lot, especially past the wire, and I didn't see him gallop out like some of the Bob Baffert horses have before.
I mean, he looks like he's going well here coming to the wire. He's pulling ahead, which is good to give the horse some confidence going into the Derby. And here he's just really being asked to gallop out. So, I mean, it could be a matter of it just being that type of horse. Sometimes, there are horses that don't gallop out as well as others. I know Breezing Gervin for the Derby was like so painful because he just didn't put in any more than he needed to. It could be a situation like that if, unless the horse has just had a little too much taken out of him. But he's moving well on the outside, and he finishes up in front of his workmate, which should give him some confidence.
Mark Casse has 2 horses in the Kentucky Derby field, one of which is Helium, who is undefeated by Ironicus, though, and that's kind of a turfy pedigree, Scott. This is a horse I'm having a very difficult time getting a handle on.
Yeah, he's going to have to step up, but he overcame a wide trip in the Tampa Bay Derby when last seen. He showed some grit, though, turning away runner-up and fellow Derby rival Hidden Stash. He looks to be the first Tampa Bay Derby winner to win the Kentucky Derby, Joe, since Street Sense in 2007.
Well, I'm having a tough time getting a handle on him, and he was born on April Fool's Day, so maybe that has something to do with it. Brandon, earlier this morning, he worked in company.
Yeah, Laker Mamba on the inside here. Turf horse, excuse me. Helium on the outside. Julian Leperoux was up, and Mark Casse. This is just typical 1 week out before the race. The big work was 2 weeks back out of the gate that we saw, and then this is just an easy move. He does end up beating the workmate in here, but Julian never moved a muscle, just kind of sitting chilly on the outside. The time's not going to be anything flashy, but this is what they were looking for, Rosie.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love watching this work. I think the horse looks full of confidence. He's full of horse. And he's striding out. He's finishing in front of his workmate. It's obviously not meant to be a fast work. And Julia's just really sitting chilly on him. So, I mean, I think that's fine for a week out from the Derby. I mean, that's all you really need. And he's galloping out well here, just in hand. Julian's not asking him to gallop out. He's doing it all on his own. And obviously, he should have plenty of horse left after going 49-4. But I think it was a great look to the work. He's got his ears pricked here, so he's happy with himself, and he's got plenty left in the tank.
That's a good look at Helium for trainer Mark Casse, who also has Soup and Sandwich in this year's Kentucky Derby. Got a good look at Helium here in his workout, but you're going to get an even better look at him after the break. Helium's going to take full flight as the Kentucky Derby work show continues here from Churchill Downs. Hope you're having a great morning.
The 147th Kentucky Derby is almost here, and Twin Spires players can take advantage of our Kentucky Derby money-back offer all week long. Place a win bet on any Churchill Downs race during Derby week, including Saturday's Run for the Roses, and if your horse finishes second or third, you'll get your money back. Plus, if you are looking for help to find a winner or two, check out our expert picks available on the app for every race. Twin Spires, bet dedicated.
One moment, you're up in the sky. And the next, you're in a free fall, 10,000 feet above the ocean. You have 30 seconds between you and the water's surface. And it's these 30 seconds that define who you are. Because how we face the fall is what separates the pioneer spirit from the rest. This is your legacy.
Back on the Kentucky Derby Morning Works show is we'll get some renovation on the racetrack at 7:30. The Derby and Oaks horses will come out. It's going to be fast and furious. We're expecting about a dozen workers, temperatures in the low 40s, and the track is fast. We just saw Helium's workout from earlier this morning, and he continues his final preparation. Scott, again, the seatbelts are fast, and we're going to have some fun at 7:30. Some other stuff to talk about, including some Oaks horses in this segment.
Yeah, we've gotten to talk a lot about Kentucky Derby horses, some about the Kentucky Oaks horses, but definitely looking forward to talking more about the fillies.
We saw Helium's work from earlier this morning. Last week, the rider had a GoPro aboard Helium for the work. A very interesting point of view, Rosie, one that you're very used to, one that we're not. To kind of take us through what you're seeing here with the GoPro and being aboard Helium with that on.
You can see Julian's got one hand above the other. That's really what helps you keep your balance coming out of the gate. So the horse actually, when you're holding onto the mane, the horse pulls you out of the gate. So he kind of just pulls you up into the position. And you can see Julian is really not doing much with his hands. He's really in hand in this work. He's got the workmate on the outside. He's just kind of along for the ride. When they're coming out of the gate, they're really, they get into the work pretty easily. You can see Julian gets a little bit lower here, and he'll probably adjust his position even more than doing anything with his hands. You're going to see the workmate coming up on the outside, and the horse's ears are really pinned back. Helium's ears are pinned back, and that's just sort of telling that he's really focused on what he's doing. So they let the horse come up next to him, but then I think he's going to pull away from the workmate. It's kind of letting him get a taste of the competition, but I like the way that he's pricking his ears now because he's seeing a couple of the things on the backside, and then you can see his ears flatten there, and Julian gets a little lower, and that's where he's really kind of asking him to finish the work down the backside. And there's a 5/8 pull there, so it's really kind of fun to watch from this perspective, and it's been a while since I've been up there. So here the horse is kind of pricking his ears again. You can see Julian's now rising up in the saddle and kind of telling the horse that the work's over. The horse has pricked his ears, and he's sort of slowing down on his own. You can see Julian has barely moved his hands once since he broke out of the gate, and that's kind of exactly what you want. The way that you would like the work to go is just the horse doing everything within himself. But it looked like a great work, and it was fun for me to go along for the ride. It's been a while.
Thanks, Rosie. It was fun for us as well as we take a ride along with Helium. We thank the Connections for their allowing us to do just that with their horse so close to a big race. Let's take a look at the top 20 for the Kentucky Oaks. Scott, Steve Asmussen has 2. Brad Cox has won it 2 of the last 3 years. He's got Travel Column, Clarier, Travel Column. They've had quite a rivalry so far.
Sure have. You got to see them run down in Louisiana. This is a very evenly matched group. We're going to have a prohibitive favorite in the Kentucky Derby, but the Kentucky Oaks, very wide open. You can make a case for several runners being the most likely winner.
14 is the max for the Kentucky Oaks. You see 4 horses on the outside looking in, led by Moonswag at number 15. Now, earlier this morning, Travel Column had a workout. She's going to be one of the favorites for the Kentucky Oaks, as you see in company here with Australasia, Louisiana bred, who's a perfect 4 for 4, Brandon.
Yeah, and I thought Australasia went really well in here, so one to keep an eye on if she shows up on any undercard races. But Florent Giroux on the outside with Travel Column. I thought Travel Column went great as well. It was an easy half, but definitely finished up well. But the whole time down the lane, Rosie, I thought Florent had plenty of horse, and at any time he could have pushed the button, but that wasn't the intention here. It was just to make sure they didn't do too much. But like I said, I thought at any time he could have blown by.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a really nice work. I love the way that she's striding out here, and he kind of just lets her have her head down the lane. And here he's almost, he almost held her back for a little bit just before the wire, and now he's going to let her go out past the workmate, past the wire for the gallop out. Really nice gallop out. That was a really nice work. I like the look of this filly. She looks like she's really traveling well. Florent just sitting chilly on her, and I think that looked like a great work for her.
Another worker from earlier this morning, Kentucky Oaks bound, is Ava's Grace for Robertino Diodoro, who's got Keep Me in Mind on the outside looking in for the Kentucky Derby. And Brandon, what do you see here?
Yeah, just another easy half. You can see on the screen there, 49-1. One thing, just looking at the physicality of this filly, she carries a lot of weight. I think she's got a pretty big frame on her, so I think she's gonna, be able to handle the race, the distance just fine. I think this work was nothing more than maintenance, Rosie.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to see with a lot of these works today is just maintenance. So you're going to see, a lot of half miles, nothing crazy fast, I don't think. But this filly's got her ears pricked here. She's finally, into her work. She's well within herself. Her jock's just sitting on top of her with a nice light hold, kind of looking around himself. But she's well within herself. He's asked for a little bit more there because she looks like she's really a little distracted almost at this point. But coming down the lane here, he's got plenty of horse. He's not really asking her for much. You can see him get a little lower where he asked her to run just a little bit just to kind of get the air in her lungs, and she's finishing strong.
There you see Ava's Grace from earlier this morning, again stopping the timer in 49-1. And Scott, I'm thinking she's probably going to be forward in the Kentucky Oaks.
No, I definitely agree. There doesn't appear to be a lot of speed on paper in the Kentucky Oaks. We saw Travel Column. We just saw Ava's Grace. I think they're two of the horses that are likely to be up front. I would expect David Cohen to be aggressive with Ava's Grace, Joe.
Expecting Malathaat to work during the 7:30 to 7:45 training period. Here she is galloping Rosie as the likely Kentucky Oaks favorite. She's bred to be a good one, and she is a good one.
Yeah, she looks really relaxed here. She's definitely a horse that's not putting too much into her gallop, which is a good thing. A lot of these really good fast horses can start to tug on their riders, and they're just, are really thriving on their gallops. So it's nice to see when a horse can just really shut off and relax and just have their ears pricked. They're not pulling on their rider. The rider's not having to ask them to go anywhere, just out doing their job. And that's just the class of this filly. And she's really in harmony with her rider, just out for a nice brisk gallop. That's really what you want to see.
Well, I love Clairiere and the Kentucky Oaks, and we're going to take a look at her momentarily, Brandon, but this is your favorite. There is Clairiere. Let's take a look at her. I love her. I think the 9 furlong distance will definitely suit her. This is from yesterday. She did go out and train earlier this morning, but again, Clairiere, again, checks all the boxes, pedigree, connections, and she's shown a lot in 4 starts. She's never been worse than second, Brandon.
Yeah, and she's a filly that I think she's kind of grown on me every day. I've seen her come out. She carries herself with a lot of class, and I think that just, she's very composed out here, and I think that's what I want to see with these fillies and Oaks contenders, with these fillies and Derby contenders. Just very relaxed, and every time she comes out, and I think, Rosie, her trainer kind of knows something about winning the Kentucky Oaks, doesn't he?
He sure does. And, speaking of that, honestly, when I watched this filly train this morning and watching this video from yesterday, she almost reminds me a little bit of Untappable in just her presence. Steve is one of the only trainers I've ever seen warm a horse up at the walk. And he'll walk them for a very significant amount of distance around the outside of the track before they even jog, before their gallop. And you can just tell how relaxed, how composed she is, and she's kind of walks with pride. She looks around, she checks it out, and in her gallop, she's got a huge stride. She does look like she was pulling on her rider a little bit, but just for the fact that she has such a big stride that you've got to contain it a little bit. I love the way she trained. She's top for me in the Oaks field. It's a very competitive field, and a lot of them look really good. I really like this filly. For some reason, she just reminded me of Untappable watching her train out here.
I love Clairiere too, and I love the fact that Rosie loves her and Brandon likes her. My confidence continues to grow by the moment, Scott.
I like a lot of things about her. My only concern is if there going to be enough pace for her to run at. She does come from off the pace. She'll need to work out a trip. She will need some contention up front.
She hasn't had pace in any of her races. She still won 2 and finished second twice. Longer stretch, 9 furlongs, I think, will help her. Social media questions, if you have any. Again, people watching this show from all over the world via YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. right here in the United States and all over the globe. Please send us some questions, some comments, and also some of your opinions as well. Money back offer, Twin Spires, fantastic promotion for Derby Week. It runs all week long, and it's on every race at Churchill Downs. Place a win bet on any race, and if the horse you bet doesn't win but runs second or third, Twin Spires will give you your money back up to $10. Now, this offer is open to all Twin Spires players, whether you're a new player or an existing one. All you have to do is opt in. Don't forget to opt in. Play those win bets at Churchill Downs, and if you finish second or third, we'll give you up to $10 back. The time we've all been waiting for is coming up shortly, the designated training time for the Oaks and Derby contenders. We'll be back with that right after this.
The 147th Kentucky Derby is almost here, and Twin Spires players can take advantage of our Kentucky Derby money-back offer all week long. Place a win bet on any Churchill Downs race during Derby Week, including Saturday's Run for the Roses, and if your horse finishes second or third, you'll get your money back. Plus, if you are looking for help to find a winner or two, check out our expert picks available on the app for every race. Twin Spires, bet dedicated.
With over 200 flavor notes to discover, every sip of Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
Welcome back to the Kentucky Derby morning workout show and then some. We've got about a dozen horses that are slated to work during the 7:30 15-minute time period up until 7:45. We will do our best to bring them all to you live or at least on tape, because there's going to be a lot of action going on. And this duo is supposed to work in company. That is Known Agenda and Sainthood, according to the plan that Kevin Kirstein is given. Looks like Known Agenda will be on the inside and Sainthood will be on the outside. And Brandon, let's throw it up to you. Todd Pletcher, we talked to him yesterday about some of his strategies with these works leading up to the Derby, and obviously the Oaks later with Malathaat. What are you looking for from this duo here today?
Yeah, I'd like to see Known Agenda really maybe look a little more impressive to me. I talked about on the shows before the credentials coming in, the Florida Derby winner. Maybe he's just not a flashy workhorse, but I just thought he could maybe do a little better than what he did last time. Interesting, he's going to switch it up and put him on the inside if that's what's going to happen. Not a bad idea. I mean, throw some different things at these horses, keep them guessing, keep them on their toes. I think that's a great plan.
Rosie, let's talk about the relationship between the trainer and the jockey coming up to these big races, and you yourself working some of these horses in advance of the big races. The trainer has a plan, obviously in company, different kind of workout. Just kind of talk us through, that relationship between the trainer and the jockey going into something like this.
Yeah, and everybody's a little bit different. Usually on the last breeze, before the big race, everyone's kind of looking for a little bit of a maintenance. They want to get some air in their lungs, but it's not like a real urgency to have a fast work. I'm willing to bet too that Brandon, you're kind of onto something about this horse just not being the best workhorse, Known Agenda, because it looks like they're going to set him up on the inside, and they can use the other horse to sort of push him along. I actually didn't mind the last work for Known Agenda. I really like this horse galloping. But I'm thinking that this horse is strategically put on the inside by Todd to sort of push him along with Sainthood and keep him kind of in the bridle and keep working. He doesn't, in all of his races, he's consistent. He's right there. But, maybe not a horse you're going to see win a race by a whole lot. He might be right there and coming down the lane, have to have some company, have to have something pushing him along. So as they get together to go to the pole here, his ears are pricked. He knows what's going on. Sainthood is looking really relaxed on the outside there. And you can see Known Agenda's kind of getting in the bridle here, and I think that's by design that this horse, that Sainthood, is sitting just off of him a little bit. We'll see how the work progresses and where they end up at the wire, but Known Agenda's, he's in the bridle. Sainthood is really, looks like a really straightforward horse here. He's just, you know, waiting on the command, but here they're starting out, and I think they both look fantastic. They're both striding out. Known Agenda on the inside. You can see Sainthood's just like maybe a touch in front here, but he's definitely on the outside to keep this horse, I think, pushed along on the inside. And he looks, there they switch leads going into the turn, and Known Agenda just puts his head just a bit in front, which is exactly what you want for the horse on the inside there. So the horse on the outside can just stay relaxed. And yeah, I mean, watching this, Known Agenda looks like a horse that just needs to be asked to work. I really wouldn't take anything away from his form watching him work. I think this is just the type of horse he is. Sainthood looks excellent on the outside, full of run. Just looks like different horses.
Yeah, interesting to know, too, they went 5 furlongs, so we've seen some trainers only work half miles today. They're going 5/8. Known Agenda, kind of, you can see the rider kind of moving his legs a little bit. Sainthood looks really good here. Under a hold. Known Agenda finally maybe starting to lower that head. They'll finish heads up to the wire there. I got him in 1:04 to the wire. We'll watch him gallop out a little bit around the turn. You did see kind of Known Agenda kind of lower his head, Rosie, I thought, and kind of get back into the work and even being asked a little bit. But I thought Sainthood was just as good.
Yeah, Sainthood looked excellent. I mean, he's just obviously a little bit more tactical of a horse. And, you know, he looked very push button and will just, you know, is there ready to do whatever his rider's asking. I think Known Agenda is just the type of horse that needs to be asked to work, and some of them are like that.
Got him in 7 furlong gallop out, 126-4.
Again, that's Known Agenda on the inside, Sainthood on the outside. They work in a team today. Todd Pletcher's got 4 of them in the Derby. They're all expected to work during this time period. Soup and Sandwich, I believe, has worked. Again, the ones that we don't get a chance to show you live, we're going to do our best to get them on tape and show them a little bit later on in the show. And Rosie and Brandon both seemingly more impressed, maybe Scott, with Sainthood than Known Agenda, but Known Agenda's got the better form and more experience.
Yeah, not surprising to hear that Sainthood maybe a little bit better of a workhorse, as Rosie was saying. Known Agenda not maybe likes to go a little longer, not necessarily quite the speed. Sainthood does show that tactical foot, Joe.
We've got a worker here. Brandon, who's it look like?
That was starring in my dreams for Dallas Stewart on the AE list right now. He breezed solo to the wire and seemed to be striding out well, was well in hand, and I thought he went easily. That's Soup and Sandwich. He just got done with his work, beat the workmate by a couple of lengths, and wasn't really asked to do much. I would say it's a very similar drill to what we saw from Helium earlier.
Again, the action fast and furious, expecting Malathaat, the likely favorite for the Kentucky Oaks, to work during this time period. Caddo River is supposed to work for Brad Cox as well during this time period. And on cue, there's Caddo River. We will show Soup and Sandwich's work a little bit later on in the show, I'm being told. But there's Caddo River, a late addition to the expected work tab here this morning by Brad Cox, who galloped Essential Quality in Mandaloun earlier. Guessing they'll go tomorrow. Maybe if the weather is not good, maybe they'll push it back until Sunday, Scott. But Caddo River is in the race. We found that out from Brad Cox a couple of days ago. He's going to be showing speed.
Yeah, I would be very surprised, assuming he gets out of the gate, Joe, if he's not on the lead. We'll see who gets aboard him with Florent Giroux, who rode him last time out riding Mandaloun. But regardless of who takes the call, I would expect an aggressive ride.
He's supposed to work in company with Warrant, not the 80s hairband, the horse. And Caddo River. Brandon, what are you expecting from this? If he's going to show speed in the Derby, are we going to see a little bit of speed in this work?
I would think so. I mean, it's just his natural speed in here. This is a work I'm really interested in because I like this horse a little bit as a potential price play just because of the pace scenario. I mean, he's going to probably have his own way, you would think, for the most part. I mean, he's kind of shown that he needs the lead, or he's most comfortable out there. Now, they're going to try to rate him in the work here, Rosie. They're going to Florent Giroux up on the outside. They're going to sit him about a length off, and maybe just in case he breaks slow or somebody else wants to be a little quicker, we can at least see that he'll be able to pass horses and, like you talked about earlier, build that confidence up.
Yeah, well, for a horse who's normally forwardly placed or on the lead, I mean, there's no given in the Derby that you're going to get to where you want to be. So surely, you know, they just want to get him a little rateable. You could see he was a little aggressive starting out in the work, and they had to kind of take him back and just try to get him to relax. But he's still really keen here coming down the lane. I actually thought that this horse looked a little immature when I watched him training in days previously, but I mean, he looks very powerful. He's very, aggressive in his work. So I kind of like the way he looks this morning outside of the workmate here, and he's galloping out well. He's obviously feeling aggressive. So, I mean, it's good to see that. You just want to make sure that he's going to be rateable for the cavalry charge if necessary.
We're also getting some rain up here to make things interesting as well. I had 25-3 and actually 48-2 to the wire. They had a huge final quarter there, Rosie, and then galloped out in minute and 4. So I thought that was a really nice work from Caddo River.
Caddo River for Brad Cox. As we mentioned earlier, Todd Pletcher with a quartet supposed to work at 7:30, and this is Dynamic One, Scott, and I see that you're looking a little bit closer at the TV screen.
Horse I'm very high on, Joe, especially given his price. Got beat at the wire in the Wood Memorial, but was wide throughout. Has had some excuses, has had some wide trips. They spent a lot of money for this horse. I think he's going to have no problem getting the distance. Hopefully he'll get the trip.
We'll see if this plays out the way Kevin Kirstein believes. He has reported that Dynamic One, Rosie, is going to work outside a Prime Factor, and we'll see how this workout goes, but it looks like they're getting ready for some action here.
Yeah, it looks like this is going to be kind of the typical setting off in the beginning, setting off of the workmate. They've actually got the workmate under quite a hold here, and Dynamic One looks a little bit more relaxed as they start into their breeze here. He's really striding out well. He's very relaxed. He's a pretty big horse with a nice stride. His jockey is just sitting with a nice hold on him. It's a nice relaxed work. It looks like a good maintenance work coming around the turn, and I have to guess that he's gonna really pull ahead of his workmate here in the lane. Here you're kind of seeing the jock just like lets the rein out just a tad bit so that he can just open up his stride a little bit and get that air in his lungs. And we'll see how he gallops out after the wire here, but he certainly looks very good. Nice stride on him.
Yeah, the workmate on the inside looks like he's going just as well. I got 47-4 there, so didn't look that quick on the video, and the fact that they look like they're going in 49 and change to me, and then they show up with a 47-4. I think that's pretty good there. And nice little gallop out there, 59-4 on my watch, and you're going to see him kind of extend the lead. This horse is training great here.
$725,000 Keeneland September yearling, a half to Revved Up, who was a graded stakes place turf marathoner, another generation back to Storm Flag Flying. It was by My Flag, so the pedigree is there, the connections are there. Scott, you like what kind of price you're hoping for?
Oh, he should be at least 20-1, Joe, if not higher. It's interesting, his workmate Prime Factor was Todd Pletcher's likeliest Derby winner a few months back, so he's no slouch in there as well. So interesting to see what happens with Prime Factor, but I'm loving the way Dynamic One's coming into the Derby.
Physical specimen here in Midnight Bourbon, who had some anxious moments on the back stretch when he got loose momentarily, but he was corralled pretty quickly. He's been training well, and Brandon, there's no question that this horse is tremendously consistent. We're going to go back to Midnight Bourbon later. We've got a couple of Oaks horses working. Brandon, what do you see?
On the screen here, I'm trying to pick up who this is. I believe this is Coach and Adventurous, I believe.
Adventuring, yeah, there you go.
For the Cox clan. Picked him up at the 3/8 pole. They went a half, so they went from the 4 furlong pole. I would, without seeing the towels, I'm thinking Coach is on the inside, but we'll see coming down the lane. Adventurous is actually a filly that's caught my eye since I've gotten here at Churchill the last couple of weeks. I thought she's trained great. I'll be looking forward to seeing what she can do. Looks like the inside, maybe just a little more horse to the line. Got the last 3/8 there in 35-4, so good little final time there. Inside does seem to be going a little bit better to me. Kind of flag the stick there on the outside, Rosie.
Yeah, both of these fillies looked really aggressive throughout the work. It's an interesting pair together, but the inside horse is definitely going a little bit better and galloping out better. But for the last 3 8s in 35 and a half mile work, that's obviously a pretty strong work. So you can see that the inside horse is just finishing up the gallop out here clearly in front. But it was an aggressive work for both of them.
I think that was Coach on the outside. I think that was Adventuring on the inside, just trying to get a glimpse of those saddle
I think you're right, Joe. I think I caught it on the binoculars. Yeah, that was Coach with the green shirt on.
That doesn't bode well for Coach. Adventuring was on the points list, but she's not going to go. Coach moved up into the top 14 recently, but she got outworked by a horse that's not even going to run in the race, Scott.
Yeah, a little discouraging, but the one thing she has going for her is success over this racetrack. She's shown an affinity for running under the Twin Spires, a win and a third in her 2 tries here at Churchill Downs.
Crazy Beautiful. Might get a glimpse of her here in a moment. She's out there as well. She's coming in off of a victory in the Gulfstream Park Oaks as you get a closer look at Coach here, who is number 14 and just recently moved into the points fray as far as the body of the race goes. Scott, Rick Keeber, somewhat new in the game for Brad Cox. I believe this is one of his first horses. She's an overachiever. Brad will be the first one to tell you that, but I'd rather have a bunch of overachievers in the barn that earn the kind of money she has, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they only spent $65,000 for her. As you mentioned, Rick Keeber, the owner, has been in the game just for a little while. Owner of Royals as well, great food.
Right.
Never been only once was she favored, and that was in the Martha Washington when she had a poor trip at 4 to 5. So as you said, has been a bit of an overachiever.
Take a breath. 15 minutes. There's still some horses lingering out on the track. The track is going to open for the rest of the general population, so to speak, here at Churchill Downs. As you see, Oaks contender on the screen there. Who do we got?
That is Melfoy.
Melfoy. This is a name for a French dessert. We'll see how sweet she is going into the race. Scott, she certainly has amazing pedigree for Belmont, and she's heading in the right direction too. Experience that maybe she leads a little bit more seasoning.
Yeah, so just 5 lifetime starts and 1 win, but you mentioned the pedigree. The distance should not be an issue. The class should not be an issue. I was disappointed in her effort in the Devona Dale, but she had some trouble in there. Last time out, though, I was impressed with both of the top 2 finishers in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. She ran second, was run down by Crazy Beautiful, who we'll see next Friday.
First foal out of the dam. The dam is the half-2 Grade 1 winning sprinter, First Defense, huge pedigree, Empire Maker, Chester House, Dakarchi in the pedigree as well. And Rosie, this is Melfoy just moments ago in her gallop.
Yeah, she looks like she's really, galloping strong. She's not putting too much into her gallop. She's not really tugging on the rider. And it's just looks like a pretty easy gallop, but a really nicely conformed filly here. She's big. She looks just very well put together, and I love the way that she moves. She's striding out, galloping nice and relaxed. Really just what you want to see out here on the morning with a lot of breezers going by especially.
Yeah, I love to see those ears pricked up down the lane, just saying that she's very alert and she's just having fun out there. I think she's, like you said, well conformed. I think the same thing. I mean, she's just built very nicely, and I'm excited to see her breeze. I want to see how she does stretching her legs out over the surface.
Scott, one of many horses in the Oaks and Derby sired by Curlin, who's just turned out to be an absolutely amazing stallion. And they talk about the fact that the Curlins get better with age. Well, they're all pretty good at age 3.
Yeah, they sure are. Curlin was pretty damn good at age 3 as well, but he got better moving forward. Didn't win the Derby, but won a lot of other big races. This filly does look pretty good, though.
I don't know about you, Scott. I'm getting a little bit hungry. It's time maybe for some breakfast or soup and sandwich. Taking a look at this one galloping earlier this morning. And Brandon, this is a work. Okay, this is a work. Brandon, take us through it, please.
Yeah, soup and sandwich, a little aggressive there, I would say. He very headstrong in this work. You can tell he wants to go, and the workmate there on the inside. Eventually, Tyler's Gaffleone, who's aboard, will get Soup and Sandwich to relax a little bit, but very headstrong into the work, and we'll try to get him settled back maybe a length or two and get him to relax. He's been very impressive here in his morning work, and it's typical, I thought, Rosie, of the earlier work this morning that I saw from Helium, where he's going to exactly what they wanted, really, just pass the workmate a little bit down the lane and just not do a whole lot because they want to save as much as they can for the race.
Yeah, he's definitely very aggressive, and sometimes it's hard to get those really fast horses to work, just slower, for like a maintenance half. But I wasn't even sure that was his workmate in the beginning there when he started out, because he was just about to blow by him. But here you can see, he's just really tugging on his rider and wanting to stride out. So that's, it's definitely what you want to see. He looks good in his stride, and they're just letting him pull away because he's just inheriting that ground in advantage of the workhorse, the workmate. So he's galloping out quite strong. It looks like this horse is definitely ready to go and, looking good coming in.
Just 3 races so far in the career of Soup and Sandwich. Rosie, talk a little bit about the progression physically and mentally, and how important experience is from horse to horse.
Well, especially in the Derby, there's quite a few horses in the Derby field that have, only 3 or 4 starts. So that's, it's kind of interesting. But, when you get into the situation of the run from the gate to the first turn, there's so much that happens so fast. It's really so important to have a horse that's really responsive so that you can adjust to whatever situation is going on around you, especially, if you're going to be forwardly placed, if you're on a horse that's aggressive. That's why I was kind of commenting on the way that Obazos was handling with his rider, just cocking his head. Like, those kinds of things are just, little things that really can have a big effect in a very crucial part of the race. So when you're looking at Soup and Sandwich and how aggressive he can be, obviously they're going to let him run into the first turn when they break out of the gates in the Derby, but you want to be able to rein him back when you get that position and make sure he's not using more of himself than he needs to.
Talking about tremendous stallions, mentioned Curlin. What about Into Mischief at last year's winner, Authentic? He's got Mandaloun, Soup and Sandwich, highly motivated this year. And Scott, we talk about that Apollo curse that was broken just a couple of years ago, in fact, by Justify. This is a horse that did not race at age 2. Talking about Soup and Sandwich, just 1 for 64 Kentucky Derby horses that did not race at age 2, with the Apollo curse being broken by Justify in 2018.
Yeah, not sure Soup and Sandwich has the credentials coming into the race of Justify, but he's done very little wrong, Joe, in his career, 2 for 3. Looks like he's going to be another horse. We talked about Caddo River, the likely pace setter if all goes well out of the gate, but I would assume Soup and Sandwich, based on that work and based on his credentials, will be involved early as well.
Brandon, do you agree with that? It was a little bit headstrong on the work. He's shown some speed in his races, including in the Florida Derby. Do you expect this horse to be forward in the Derby?
I would think so, and I think the immaturity too. He's lightly raced, and I'll say this. I've said this several times. If you're handicapping these races, go back and watch that Tampa Bay race where he won the first level allowance, and he actually was made to sit behind horses early on. I thought he relaxed beautifully, almost like when he got to the wire here. He was headstrong early, but Tyler was able to pull him back in, and he really relaxed. And then he showed another gear around the turn. He's just, I don't know what to do with him quite yet, but he's definitely, I think, a big-time talent and a horse that I'm going to have featured in my tickets somewhere.
The race fans enjoying the morning here at Churchill Downs. No admission for the fans to come here and enjoy the morning proceedings. We've got Known Agenda and Sainthood. We took a look at this live earlier. We're going to take a look at this again, an in-company work for trainer Todd Pletcher. Known Agenda, the horse with the better resume. Sainthood still trying to find out where he belongs on the class ladder. They worked in company earlier this morning with Known Agenda on the inside and Sainthood on the outside. Let's take a look back at that, and Rosie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, like I said, this work for Known Agenda, you can tell that the rider is having to work on the horse a little bit more than Sainthood, but it really doesn't bother me at all. I actually watched this horse walk off the track after the work. He was bouncing in his stride. He's proud of himself. He ends up galloping out in front, but you can see he just isn't quite the workhorse that Sainthood is. I like how Sainthood is just really in tune with his rider. He is very manageable in, you know, I can see that they're kind of managing Known Agenda's work. So Sainthood's sort of being put in place strategically as a, you know, a good workmate, a good match, but also to kind of push him along. But I love how Sainthood is just, you know, whether it's holding off or going forward, he's really receptive to his rider and looks great striding out on the outside. Like I said, Known Agenda drops his head here to really stretch out and just get his nose in front, but then he does end up galloping out in front down the backside, which I like. You know, I know a lot of people might be a little turned off by the way that Sainthood looked a little stronger, but to me, it's the type of horse, and it really doesn't bother me at all.
We're being told that Burbank is going to come out at 9 o'clock now, so that'll be a work that we're able to bring you on tomorrow's shows. We'll get that one hopefully recorded, but Burbank is going to come out a little bit later on. As expected, a lot of workers here this morning. Malathaat did breeze inside of a workmate. She went 48-2 for 4 furlongs, galloping out 1 minute and 4/5 as the likely Kentucky Oaks favorite, as you see Sainthood and Known Agenda. And Brandon, your overarching thoughts on this working company between that Pletcher duo?
Yeah, I thought, you know, Rosie said everything we need to hear, to be honest. We talked about it when we were watching it live. Known Agenda just seems like a colt that you kind of have to get after a little bit. Not going to be a flashy workhorse, but did his best work, it seemed like, after the wire.
About 5 minutes to 8 o'clock here at Churchill Downs as we rapidly approach opening day here, Scott. Opening day at Churchill tomorrow. It's tomorrow night, I believe, first post 6 o'clock, right? A 10-race card. William Walker. Forecast doesn't look great for tomorrow, but it looks pretty good going into next week. And obviously, we can't control Mother Nature, keeping our fingers crossed, but looking very forward to getting the party started with opening night tomorrow.
Yeah, 10-race card, as you mentioned, with the William Walker headline, a full field. Hopefully, the turf course will be set and ready to go for that turf dash. But lots of horses, including Cowan, coming back from overseas for the Hall of Famer Steve Asmussen.
Let's take a look back at Caddo River from earlier today. And again, with a workmate and on the outside of the workmate here, utilizing that workmate as a target. And Brandon, we talked about this when we saw it live. Caddo River has been a horse that has impressed you. And again, of the 3 Brad Cox horses, I would venture to say he's going to be the longest price.
Yeah, and from a pace dynamic, like I mentioned earlier, I think this horse is probably going to be your pace setter. Subin Sandwich maybe out there a little bit, but I love this breeze. I thought it was great early on. I mean, Florent does have to get him to relax a little bit to settle, but I think that's just kind of his style. He's got some natural speed, and the fact that they were able to kind of get Caddo River to sit off the mate here, and you'll see approaching the turn. Still wants to run a little bit, but Florent does a great job, I thought, Rosie, keeping his hands low, trying to get this horse to relax a little bit, and they really did finish up strong to the wire.
Yeah, as much as he was kind of aggressive going into the work, as soon as they get into the work and he's allowed to open up his stride, he really settles and relaxes. And then you can see down the lane, he's just got tons of horse. And so, you know, for a work, you know, it's a nice steady work going in 1 minute and 3, but he's got tons and tons of horse. I actually didn't like this horse so much watching him train, but watching the breeze, I really, you know, may have changed my mind.
All right, that's Caddo River, one of the likely pace setters for the Kentucky Derby, one of 3 for trainer Brad Cox. And Twin Spires, we talked about the great offers that they offer to you on a regular basis. They also can give you some help with your handicapping if you're in the need of some last-minute betting advice at Churchill Downs for Kentucky Derby Week. The Twin Spires expert picks previews are located on the betting page of both the Twin Spires app and, of course, the website, where we're able to hear, you know, Scott Shapiro, Ed DeRosa, a cast of characters and handicappers, analysts, give their thoughts and their selections for every race. Check out the expert picks on twinspires.com and the Twin Spires app. Whew, wow, great morning here at Churchill Downs. It's, one of those situations, Scott, where it just kind of flies by that last hour. Felt like 10 minutes.
A lot of fun, and it was great to not only, as always, hear Brandon's thoughts, but having Rosie with some of the, you learn every day when you come to the racetrack. I've said that for 30 years or whatever I've been following racing, but I definitely learned today listening to Rosie.
Rosie, got to see a lot of horse flesh out there this morning. Who impressed you most?
Yeah, it was great to be out here. I mean, it's a perfect morning. The horses actually love it being cool. At the end of this hour, I'm shaking a little bit because I'm freezing cold. But it's really, it's quite nice compared to what we're expecting tomorrow. Today, the track was just perfect. Nice, fast track. We had watched some really great works. So tomorrow's kind of a wild card to see who might work, who's going to come out and just gallop and train. And, I'm excited to see, if there are any workers tomorrow. It'll be a different, dynamic of possibly a different racetrack and possibly sealed. So I think you're rolling the dice with the weather tomorrow. We don't know what it's going to be, but hopefully we'll at least see, everybody out training tomorrow and see how they go. We won't see the horses that breeze today, but we'll be seeing them later on in the week.
Medina Spirit is one that's supposed to arrive today, Scott. And, the trainers, they kind of have to figure out what they want to do. They'll be watching that radar very, very closely, whether it's tomorrow morning for the ones who haven't worked or pushing back to Sunday.
Yeah, and Todd Pletcher, who has 4 here, definitely called the audible today. It looked like he was planning to go tomorrow, pushed it forward, as Rosie said, not willing to roll the dice.
Anything catch your eye today? Dynamic One, I know you liked him again this morning. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, a little biased. I wanted to like what I was going to see from Dynamic One, and I certainly did. Caddo River looking good. Most horses I thought looked pretty good, but great insight, as always, from Brandon and Rosie.
Yeah, that's what we like to see. The horses all looking good, all ready to put their best hoof forward on the final Friday in April and the first Saturday in May this year. Brandon, your final thoughts from the 4th floor.
Yeah, I thought same thoughts. Caddo River for me, it was a horse I was wanting to see a good work from, and we got that. And same thing with Dynamic One, seems to be coming up to a good race in there. And it's just important that we get to know these horses, like we talked about with Known Agenda, maybe not the strongest workhorse, but definitely got better past the wire. Interested to see Crazy Beautiful tomorrow, who I'm very interested in for the Kentucky Oaks.
All right. Well, for me, Mandaloun looks more like the Mandalorian. He is a dude, and I think he's going to be dangerous on the first Saturday in May. The way he's training, and most importantly, he's going to be a price. That's going to wrap it up for the Friday edition of the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show. Rosie Napravnik is going to join us again tomorrow, Saturday. Brandon Staubel, Scott Shapiro, Ed DeRosa will be in the driver's seats. We hope you enjoy the remainder of your Friday, everybody. Join us again tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern Time for the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show.